Hi, friends. Welcome to Woke Wednesday. I am a few minutes late. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, folks, to Woke Wednesday. Hello, Tanya. Hello, friends. What a fucking wild news cycle that we are in the midst of right now. I'm going to wait for a few more people to join. You know the drill on Woke Wednesdays. Welcome, folks. Drop an emoji into the comment section and tell me how you are feeling about this week, headed into this week. Drop an emoji. If I am dropping an emoji, my head is exploding. I am doing a thinking finger. I am feeling a whole lot of different emotions this week as our democracy is under attack, as we are watching explosions take place on the Gaza Strip. The world is in chaos right now, and that is not me being hyperbolic as many people think, but I will get into that in a bit. So I see a lot of thinking faces, a lot of crazy, scared faces, some cursing faces, which you know that is always my go-to. Polly is in tears, understandably so. Welcome, folks, to Woke Wednesday with me, your girl, Danielle Moody. So let's get right to the news. So, folks, this week I wanted to talk about the death of the GOP, but before I go into the grand old party, the grand KKK party, the new White Citizens Council, before we start talking about Republicans and the actions that they took today in order to fully solidify themselves as soldiers for Donald Trump and against our democracy, I do want to talk about what is happening right now in Israel and in Palestine. For those of you who do not know, a couple of years ago, about 6 years ago, when I was a contributor for NBC BLK, I was invited to go to Israel and Palestine, and that was around 2015. I went on a journalist, retreat, if you would call it, to learn more about the conflict that was happening in that part of the region. Now, folks, you know, and if you follow me and have been following me and listening to me for a long time, you know that foreign affairs, I will say foreign affairs are not my steez. They are not the role that I take, but I am somebody that believes thoroughly in justice, in social justice, in equity. And so going to this region of the world was an important thing for me. And at this time, it was 2015, and there were strikes that were happening. None to the level that we are seeing take place today. And as many reports are saying, that we have not seen this type of bombings, this type of military escalation in this region since 2014, the year before I went. I will tell you this. I have never in my entire life experienced the type of oppression, experienced the type of trauma and grief that I have when I went to the West Bank, when I went and spoke to Palestinians in their homes living under military occupation rule. I say this as a Black person living in the United States. There have been constant envoys over decades of Black liberationists going to this region of the world because we see what the Palestinians have been going through, have been faced with, right? And we understand, where did Israel learn to do the things that they are doing? From America and our Jim Crow apartheid system. Segregation is what taught the world how to deal with those that they do not like, how to deal with those that they believe are less than. I went through, on the course of the week that I was there, multiple checkpoints. I was pointed at with machine gun rifles while we were in a car, having to tell folks that we were Americans, that we were here on a journalistic, search and discovery, right? From the moment, folks, that I stepped out of the gate in the airport in Tel Aviv, we were questioned because it was a group of black and brown and also Jewish folks that were on this journalistic trip. And we were questioned from the moment that we left the gate. So imagine we didn't even get on the other side of what we would refer to as TSA before we were asked about why we were in the country and what we were planning to do. We had documentation to make sure that people in America knew that where we were and why we were headed there. When I tell you again about the experiences that I had, that I came back to the United States after having been in Israel and Palestine for a week, and I had nightmares for well over a month. I had, I would say, some version of post-traumatic stress disorder because I have never been in a space where you're out to dinner and you have to speak in whispers about what is happening around you, where you're just like, I don't understand. Doesn't everybody see that there are no Palestinians that are allowed into Tel Aviv? Does nobody see that like these people have to go through checkpoints or they're gunned down? That right now, in the midst of Ramadan, last week, that Israeli forces went in and assaulted one of the most sacred mosques in the region? That was akin to going into National Cathedral, if you were a Christian, if you were a Catholic, in the midst of Christmas, right? Like, what is happening right now? You are seeing people being evicted from their homes in East Jerusalem. This is a practice that happens over and over and over and over again, of evicting people from their homes, of demolishing them. This is happening, folks, in the middle of a pandemic, and yet I hear our politicians on television hailing Israel and their response to the vaccine when they didn't want to vaccinate half their fucking population. So for my entire life, we have talked about Israel being the sole democracy in the Middle East, and I told you I was there. Democracy where is the question that I had. Democracy where? Because there is no fucking democracy when people aren't allowed to vote, when they're not allowed to work, when they have no freedom of movement, when kids are being thrown in jail or under house arrest for throwing stones as a means to protect themselves. You cannot use the word democracy when you are oppressing half of the fucking population. It just makes no sense. And right here in New York City, we have a huge mayoral race that is happening next month. And you have folks like Andrew Yang talking about standing shoulder to shoulder with the folks of Israel without even acknowledging what is happening to the Palestinians. I wrote on my page, if you want to understand what it means to be globally gaslit, it is what is happening to the Palestinians right now, where the world has turned their back. And I could not understand for the life of me when I was there, why? Why? How is it that in this country we will fight for women's rights? We will fight for racial justice. We will talk about the rise in Asian hate. We will talk about all of these things, all of these human rights violations that happen in this country. We will then go around the world and dictate to them how they should run their democracies while overlooking the oppressive state, the police state that Palestinians live under. I do not understand. And I have never understood America's stance. And just so that you know, that the bombs that you are seeing that they are launching, right? The buildings that are coming down are funded with your fucking tax dollars. That's on God. That is funded by us. You tell me why billions of dollars of our money goes to building up their defenses so that they can then turn around, murder people, and kick them out of their homes, to terrorize them during their most holy time, to then have the United States turn around and say that we need to, have de-escalation and we need to show restraint, when the Palestinians aren't the ones with the army, with the weapons, or with the means to even access that. In order to be in conflict, both sides have to have the same ability. There is not a conflict that is happening, friends. This is not a conflict. This is terror. This is legalized terror and torture on a regular basis. Now, again, I say that foreign affairs is not my lane, but I know injustice when the fuck I see it. And I will always speak on it when I see it. And right now, there is no way that you turn on the news, that you see and witness what is happening, that you go on Twitter, that you go on Instagram, and you see these vicious pictures, and you say, all is fine here. We learned a long time ago that injustice everywhere, anywhere, is a threat to justice everywhere. That includes our brothers and sisters that are in other parts of this world. We've been talking about and asking for a free Palestine for what feels like centuries. And I urge you that if you do not know, if you do not have the information, then go and find it. There are organizations, there are places all over Instagram and Twitter. And to that point, if you are a person that believes in human rights and not just cherry picking human rights and deciding who is actually going to be seen as human, you should care about this issue. You should care because it is our tax dollars, dear friends, that are funding this. When I was there to sit in people's homes and to hear their stories, to listen to their generational trauma and pain, I cannot express to you how heartbreaking it was. And as I am recounting it now, my eyes are welling up with tears because to see these people, I did not want to leave them behind after a week of only being there. And I thought, my God, how many of them are going to be alive in a year, in 5 years? Like, how can you exist under this stress, this strain? It is so much to bear. And so, when people want to say to us that justice is complicated, that human rights is complicated, oh, Danielle, you don't know enough of the issue, you don't know enough. I know a fuck enough. I have eyes, I have ears. And I know when people are being tortured. I know when people are being oppressed. I know when people are being beat down. I know when you were looking at one life as having value and you were looking at another life as less than. We know that all too well because we see it in the United States play out all the time. And it is our injustice practices here. It is our discrimination that has taught the world how to discriminate. It is our practices in the United States that taught the Nazis how to harm the Jews, how to murder them, right? How to cast them aside. It was our practices during slavery that gave them the map. So we have no business as a country going around anywhere and wagging our finger talking about democracy and human rights when just this week I'm listening to U.S. national security advisors talk about restraint when children are dead. When Netanyahu is telling Biden to keep out of our business. Oh, that's interesting. You want the United States to keep out of your business, but you want our money too? It shouldn't fucking work like that. You don't get to collect billions of our fucking tax dollars and then tell us to mind our own fucking business while you commit genocide. That should not be how it works. But that is how our relationship has been working with Israel for decades. So, people like to say that if you stand up and you speak up for the Palestinian people, that somehow you are anti-Semitic, that somehow that means that you are against the Jewish people. That could not be further from the truth. Again, I will speak up any time that I see injustice and hatred rearing its head and knowing that we are the ones that are funding it. People have the right to exist. Gaza is an open air prison. There is no safe space there. When I went to go and visit, we were not permitted to go. There is nothing that is allowed in and out of this place. Imagine I live in New York City. Imagine that being Staten Island, right? No ferries, no boats, no transport, no economy, no nothing. No people allowed to go in. No one is even allowed to actually report from the ground there. But we're supposed to believe that this is some type of democracy? These people, all of them are not under house arrest. And yes, that is how they've been functioning. This is not right. It is not right. It is a disfucking grace. The world has turned their backs on these people. Why? Because they pray different? Because they look different? It makes me sick. It makes me sick to know that as tax season is upon us, that as people are paying their taxes, that my money is going to fuel that. That is not who we should be. And if you have a voice and you have a platform, you should be speaking out on it. This is not something that we should remain silent on, and nor should you be silenced into believing that because you do not have a doctoral degree in foreign affairs that you can't have an opinion on the matter. This brings me to social media for a moment as well. Just recently, Instagram and Twitter have both had to come out with apologies because somehow their algorithms blacked out Palestinian pages and people sharing and posting in support using the hashtag Al-Aqsa for the mosque that was attacked. This happens each and every time that attacks are made on the Palestinian people where the Israelis are bombing and murdering folks. All of a sudden, their social media goes dark for days. And then Instagram wants to come out and tell us that it was an algorithm, that it was a hiccup, that it was a mistake, and we're all just supposed to take that. How many mistakes equal a pattern? What they are doing to the people of Israel and Palestine in terms of blacking out their social media pages would be akin to us marching for George Floyd, marching for Breonna Taylor over the summer of 2020, and having all of our pages erased if we posted the hashtag of their names. It is the way to stop organizing, right? Let us be clear that these folks are not allowed, not only are they not allowed to gather, right, in person, now our social media giants are making sure that they are unable to gather and gain solidarity online as well. That is censorship. So let us not, again, fall for the rope-a-dope and pretend that these are accidents. They are not. They are purposeful. Pay attention to how this administration and others are speaking about what is happening right now. Pay attention to the language that they are using, to the fine line that they are walking. And if you do have the opportunity, tweet at this administration and ask them where your tax dollars are going and how we continue to fund a genocide and yet are supposed to have no voice in it. Ask them that. All right, switching gears to our fucking internal cabal in the United States. So here's the thing, folks. We have thought, for the last several months, that the election of 2020 was somehow going to be our saving grace, that somehow this was going to be the election that saved us. And now, while it was historic, right, while the turnout was historic, let's understand that we did not stave off the threat to our democracy. We are a two-party political system, and one party today signed their name in blood to Donald Trump by ousting Liz Cheney from leadership because she refused to continue to perpetuate the big lie that Donald Trump won the election. That's why Liz Cheney was ousted. Not because, and let me be clear, ain't nobody trying to defend Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is a fucking bigot. Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump 93% of the time. Liz Cheney has a over 90% rating with conservative lifetime, with conservative organizations. Liz Cheney is nobody's hero as it pertains to our progression in America. She is one of the people, much like her father, who has always wanted to stop progress, embrace of conservative values, right? AKA whiteness. So let's not pretend that Liz Cheney is some type of fucking patriot and hero because she is doing what the job entails, which is upholding the fucking Constitution. We have fallen so low in this country that just speaking the truth gets you some type of badge of courage, right? You swear when you are sworn in to be a representative of our Congress, of our government, to uphold the Constitution. Doing so is part of your fucking job. Do you get applause when you do your job? No, you get applause when you go above and beyond. Telling the truth shouldn't be seen as going above and beyond. But that's how fucking far we have fallen in this country. So, here we are. Liz Cheney is ousted, but guess who remains in the Republican Party? Matt Gaetz, a fucking pedophile, and now we're learning, drug user, right? But again, I don't say this as a way to shame people because plenty of people have become addicted to drugs and use drugs. That is not what I'm doing here. What I will shame is the bullshit when you try and tell other people, right, that they are less than because of an addiction and a problem that they have. But oh, by means, this motherfucker is rich and white and wants to put some nose candy up his nose, then oh, that's okay. That's shit that we will look away from, right? The fuck out of here. Matt Gaetz is still in the party. That lion-ass conspiracy spouting bitch, fucking Marjorie Taylor Greene, still in the party. But Liz Cheney, a Cheney, right? A Cheney is ousted from the Republican Party because she refuses to kiss the ring of Donald Trump. My God. We cannot just sit back and think that, oh, well, let's just all watch the Republican Party combust, because it's not going to combust, folks. It's going to blow the fuck up. And do you know who's going to be hurt in the process? Us. This party, right? After sitting with Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris today, Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy sent out fundraising emails having the audacity to call Joe Biden corrupt. Motherfucker, what? You're sending out fundraising emails calling Joe Biden corrupt, but you flying down to Mar-a-Lago with a motherfucker that's on a criminal investigation in not one but two states and soon, God willing, being indicted by the federal government for the crimes and corruption that he committed over the last 4 years that you all aided and abetted? You have Mitch McConnell saying that what he is looking forward to is not building America back up after 4 years under Donald Trump and a year and a half in a pandemic where our economy took one of the biggest hits since the fucking recession. No. Mitch McConnell's goal is not to work and rebuild America. Mitch McConnell's goal is to stop Joe Biden at any cost. And understand, folks, that by stopping the president of the United States that is working on plans to rebuild this fucking country, that you are stopping America dead in its tracks. So the idea that they can part and parcel, oh, we're going to knock down Democrats. What the fuck is your job? Why are you in Congress? Why are you continuing to be elected? When you do dick, look at the numbers in Kentucky. Look at the numbers in some of these Republican states where Republican leaders are. They are last in almost every goddamn thing. Last in education, healthcare, all of the things that matters, jobs. But Mitch McConnell, his one goal is going to be to stop Joe Biden from what? Rebuilding our roads, stopping a pandemic, fixing the nation's schools, giving American families a living wage. Those are the things that you are against when over 60% of the population is for it? Understand that this fucking party, if allowed to get back into power, folks, we are fucking done. Our country already survived one stress test. It is not going to survive another one. Our republic still remains in danger. Gravely so. Because we have 47 states have rolled out voter suppression laws, with some of the most egregious being in Georgia and in Texas. They know that they cannot win, so that they will cheat. But here's the thing, Mitch McConnell already stacked the fucking courts with over 300 Trump federal judge appointees. This is only headed in one direction, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Trust and believe. I wish that one Woke Wednesday I would come on and not talk about murder in the headlines, not talk about what black person was murdered, not talk about what the fuck shit Republicans were doing. But the reality is this, folks, if you don't hear the fucking 4-alarm fire that is happening in this country right now, you are not paying attention. Look, I know everybody is, according to the New York Times, languishing somewhere between depression and thriving after coming off of COVID-19 and trying to work our way back to some sense of new normal. But understand this, what we are seeing take place around the world with these fascist regimes, they are learning it from us. Right? Do you remember that 1980s, this is your brain on drugs? Where did you learn to do these things? And the kid looks up at the dad and says, I learned it from you? Yeah, that's America. Right now, they are trying to literally legislate conspiracy based off of Donald Trump's lie. We have no recourse in the courts because Mitch McConnell stole the courts. And we allowed him to do so by not taking any fucking action during the Obama years, because we were just so fucking grateful that a black man became president of the United States that we didn't see the fucking long street down the road of what was going to be coming our way after. Wake up. Because as soon as Mitch McConnell gets the gavel, as soon as Kevin McCarthy or whatever lame ass House Republican member gets the gavel, America is fucked. They have sealed their deal with Donald Trump. That is who they are. That is who they will be. Nobody from now on should say, oh, Donald Trump has held this Republican Party hostage. That motherfucker didn't hold nobody hostage nowhere. Okay? He gave them the freedom and the license to be themselves. He gave them the freedom and the license to be as deplorable as Hillary Clinton told us that they were. These people are doing their dirt in broad fucking daylight, and we still are talking about compromise and coming to the table. We are at war right now. And that is the thing that the American people need to understand. Americans that actually believe in justice, our democracy, and the values presented in our Constitution, no matter how flawed it is. We are at war. They have been at war with us while we have still been pretending that we live in some type of democracy. Folks, we are hanging on by an utter fucking thread right now. If the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is not passed, then we have about 3.5 more years of this life before we are done. That's what everybody doesn't seem to understand. We have midterm elections. We have razor thin majorities in the House and in the Senate. And every pollster is telling us that every Democrat loses seats in their midterm election. I hope to God that because people are vaccinated, because they are having food on their table, because they received a support stimulus in their bank accounts, that they will look at the Democratic Party and recognize that there is only one party that cares about Americans and cares about ensuring that all Americans have access and opportunity. But folks, understand that as soon as Mitch McConnell has the gavel again, as soon as the Grim Reaper gets control again, we are finished. 2022, midterm elections are not that far away, and every pollster is telling us it ain't looking good. So voter suppression and what they are doing, all is real, because they know they can't win. And honestly, to be honest with you, they're not trying to fucking win. What kind of party doesn't have a platform? You think about that? What kind of party doesn't have a platform and is actually not trying to win votes? One that recognizes that they have found a way to work outside of the people and still want to pretend that it's a democracy. That they are calling What Biden and Harris are trying to legislate in terms of bringing America back? Socialism. Because they don't want government to work for anybody as long as it is not putting money back in the pockets of their shareholders and CEO buddies, who, by the way, they also have waged war on because they want them to shut up and continue to dribble, right? They're telling Mitch McConnell, Warren, don't you get involved in our politics, stay out of politics. Oh, but by the way, cut me a check? Bitch, come on. Come on. So we have a lot that is happening in this country, a lot that is happening around the world. And I'm telling you, it is all about money. It is all about money and it is all about power. And for Netanyahu in Israel, it is about ethnic cleansing. And folks, if you think for a minute that over 600,000 Americans are dead in this country and that wasn't strategic on the part of the Trump administration once they realized who was dying from COVID-19, who was overwhelmingly represented in our death statistics, if you think that wasn't an opportunity, that COVID wasn't an opportunity for the Republican Party to start their own ethnic cleansing in the United States, wake the fuck up. This shit, these people, evil is connected. Right? Netanyahu was in arms, wrapping arms with Donald Trump over the last 4 years. Right? Why? Because they had something in common. Greed, evil, and cruelty above all else. We are not out of the woods. We are not out of the woods by a long shot. And I beg of all of you, I know that it is exhausting. I know that you are filled with anxiety and stress and you all just want to take a break. And frankly, I say to you, do take a break. I say it every day on Woke AF Daily. Take a break so that you do not have a breakdown. But please, please, please do not bury your head in the sand and become political ostriches. We cannot afford people to just check out. This is the time when we need to be rooted in our truth, rooted in the values of our democracy. We know that our democracy has never worked for everybody. We fucking know that. I'm black and queer. I fucking know that. But I still believe, even to this day, in the promise. I believe in the imagination. I believe in the project of American democracy. And I believe that it is each generation's responsibility to try and move the ball further down the court. But let us not lose sight of the fact that we need all to be well in order to continue fighting, right? That you cannot continue to run on nothing. That you do need to have a break so that you do not have a breakdown. That we do need rest. Rest needs to be part of the revolution. Right? But we are in the midst of war, folks. And that is something that we cannot turn away from. We cannot think that one election saved us because you are seeing what they are trying to do after this historic turnout to make sure that it never happens again. So wherever you live, wherever you are working, folks, if you have the resources, donate to organizations that are working to save our vote, like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, like Stacey Abrams, Black PAC, and so many other groups that are doing the fucking work to try and save our democracy. If you can, donate. If you can, volunteer. Because what we are up against did not go away just because we changed administrations. As a matter of fact, they doubled the fuck down. The last thing that I will say before I head out on this good Woke Wednesday is this. There was a hearing that took place right after the GOP decided to oust Liz Cheney from leadership. And that hearing that took place was on the insurrection on January 6th. And you still have Republicans wanting to tell us that they have no idea who stormed the castle on that good day. That it could not possibly have been people who were Trumpers, even though I don't know what the fuck videos that they are looking at, because all I saw were Trump signs and MAGA hats and the chanting of Donald Trump, and also to hang the vice president after Donald Trump told them that they need to hold Mike Pence accountable. They are trying to gaslight the fuck out of all of us. And I am telling you that being woke, being conscious is not one and done. It is a practice like yoga that you must invest in every single day. Because the work to try and force us to go back to sleep, because the work to try and gaslight into telling us, don't believe your lying eyes, but believe the bullshit that is being spewed out of my mouth, they are doing it over time. Right? They are pulling no fucking punches. And what I'm saying is, neither can we. There is too much at stake, folks. That is it for me here on this Good Woke Wednesday. If you want to hear more of me and get 5 hours a week, 5 new shows a week, head over to patreon.com/wokeaf and sign up, subscribe, support independent Black voices, support independent queer voices like mine over at patreon.com/wokeaf. It is $5 a month for all this, but an hour long. Thank you all so very much. And to those of you who are new, I see a lot of new names and faces. This post goes up right after I am live. Share it with your friends, share it with your community, because it is through building a woke nation that we are going to be able to fight against these oppressors in this country and around the world. I appreciate each and every one of you. Power to the people, and to all the people power. Get woke and stay woke as fuck.